Sensational for Cincinnati. Mitch Hildebrand, the hero, and the underdogs have prevailed once again.
I would like to present the USL Regular Season Championship to FC Cincinnati. Congratulations to the players, the staff, and most importantly, the fans on a record-breaking season. Congratulations.
Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for your regular season champions, FC Cincinnati.
In a foot race, Cincinnati plays this across. Vasquez with the finish. Brandon Vasquez gives Cincinnati the 2-1 lead. A late breakdown by Red Bull.
Well, Dylan Nealis gets beaten, and nobody covers the streaking run. Unbelievable.
L'Oreal got under that. Oh! What a goal for FC Cincinnati! You couldn't dream that any better. Goal of the tournament. Maybe the history of the tournament. Alvaro Barreal makes it 2-0.
They have done it. Cincinnati, your 2023 Supporters Shield winners. A first trophy in their MLS era, and now they celebrate. Top of the Supporters Shield race since May. They never look back. And now a piece of silverware to show for it.
And they've gone for the long-range efforts. My word! That is spectacular! That is a goal to savour for a lifetime! An I was there type goal! Look at Orishano with an iconic strike at TQL Stadium.
CF Montreal just go to sleep when the ball goes. His whistle dead, and Orishano just takes a peek, looks up, and doesn't even need to touch the ball. And how about this technique? Just absolutely perfect.
Lifted into the penalty area. That's Bauer, and that's Will. That's saved, and that's Surridge, and he still saves it on the line. What a 60 seconds for Roman Celentano.
The Flying Lion says,
boys, hell is real.
2023 Supporter Shield champs.
So glad that I can be back with people who know that it's a Flying Lion.
It shows how much we all love this club.
Yeah, just a fan of the sport, you know.
It's definitely tougher to be an academy player than it is a pro.
In this club, we don't play just for the club. We play for the club. I'm here for the fans.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Thanks, everyone, for joining us.
What's going on, guys?
Welcome back, everyone, to another live edition of the Flying Lion podcast. We're here rolling on through preseason. We're almost to the regular season, just under 2 weeks to go, believe it or not, or just about that time. So we're really excited for this episode. Break down preseason match number 3 against Detroit City. We'll kind of walk you through. We saw some kit leaks, so we'll go through that and show you guys a sneak peek. No spoilers there. So if you guys don't want to see it, you don't have to. But then finally, we'll kind of walk through some other MLS news, and we do have a guest with us tonight. So Favian Renkel is going to join us here a little bit later, a journalist that covers a lot around the MLS. We're going to chat about the upcoming FC Cincinnati season and the MLS season in general. But Sam, thanks for joining me tonight.
Yeah, I'm always joining, Ryan. I don't know why you say that sometimes. It's like, thanks for joining. It's like, well, I invited you to the stream. But no, it's great. I mean, Ryan, we're a ways away here. Like, we're counting down the days now, less than 2 weeks, and yeah, I mean, obviously we'll break it down, but we still got a lot of things to figure out. Not only as fans, but clearly the team does as well. So happy to get into it. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to Favian too later on. So stick around for that. Here around like 9 o'clock, I think he's going to come on Eastern, wherever you're watching, listening. So yeah, excited to be here.
Yeah, so like Sam mentioned, we're going to get into this preseason match. Again, like, take this all for a grain of salt. It's preseason. We're trying things out. We do win. We beat Detroit City 1-0, our first win of the preseason. So shout out to the boys for that. but a team that you should beat, a USL team, one that we had some history with. But yeah, again, appreciate everything that Carter's done this whole preseason, giving us, the tweets and everything. I don't think Detroit City, Sam, even really had like any news about this match.
So what I had noticed, I looked at their stuff on Twitter like beforehand, and it looked like they had done recaps, right? So they had written an article recapping the preseason match, and I think it just came out today. So USL Championship.
That know when the preseason match are, and we're refreshing our screens to see minute by minute updates. Yeah, that's where we're at at this point in the preseason. But Sam, lineup wise, we had a couple different changes here. We finally got our trialist turned Bryan Ramirez. Finally got his visa. He's he got the upgrade from the trialist status. But we went with a different look with the midfield. Kind of break down what we saw with the lineup here.
Yeah, a little bit. So lineup wise, you kind of get a more semi, traditional lineup. But like Ryan said, the big thing that you saw out of this one was the midfield, and that was Bucha, Obi, and Gidi were all in at the same time, right? So you got 3 center mids, setting 2 defenders as well. So I'm not sure like what that kind of looked like. I know Ryan, you had put shouts out there for a false 9, maybe Evander playing more advanced that way, or even playing up top with Denkey. I don't know. I was kind of leaning more closer to Evander and Bucha playing as dueling 10s more than anything. Just because I know at the beginning of last season, immediately in Champions Cup, you saw Bucha get two or 3 goals within the first couple games, right? So offensively, I think what Pat maybe wants to see is unlocking that for Bucha. I know, coming in, you saw the highlights, right? Like coming in when we first signed him, like, oh man, this dude scores in the Champions League. Like he's pretty good, but towards the end of the year, you didn't really see that. So maybe that's what we saw. But Ryan, obviously you saw maybe false 9, or were thinking false 9 when you saw the lineup.
Yeah, because you see, Bucha, Obi, and Gidi all roll in, and that's kind of what we want to see. We want to see Gidi on the field as well. He's very talented, but surrounded, with the experience of Obi and Bucha, maybe we can unlock, his play a little bit more. For me, Obi's got to be that number 6. He's got to be that destroyer, that number 6. You could let Bucha, you could let Gidi kind of roam a little bit more. But is it Evander and Bucha as dueling 10s? Maybe that's kind of what you're saying. Or Evander, like you said, as that advanced false 9. He did a little bit of that with Portland. I could see him potentially working in that space well, as long as him and Denkey are communicating well and passing well there. And even on a press, we need both of them to work hard. I think I touched on that a little bit a few episodes ago as well. But we'll see if they liked it. Ultimately, we only kind of got like an idea on paper of what this was, but could that be something the club rolls out at some point? I think potentially. How can we unlock this offense? How can we get the most out of these players? In seeing Bucha maybe a little bit more forward, like Sam's saying here, he did really well at it last year, but he's had to play, a really solid 8 role where he's had to defend a little bit more. Can we unlock him going forward a little bit more? I think that'd be cool. Matt Miazga is still not available, Sam. That was the other omission. We see Jabari comes back at least as a sub, but no Matt Miazga. So the back line we saw in this one with Gilberto Flores, Teenage Hidebe is back, for this one as well, and Miles Robinson. Past that, you had Ender, Evander, you had on the wing Bryan Ramirez, like we mentioned, and then Denkey up top. So everyone else pretty much typical there. But from all it sounds like, we came out on the front foot as we should, playing a inferior opponent, if you want to say that. I mean, in these matches, who knows what happens in preseason. We're trying things, but we're controlling possession, pushing numbers forward, and creating chances. I think Bryan Ramirez actually hit the post, shortly before Denkey scores. I think Detroit had a goal called back, early on in the first half too. That was clearly offside from what Carter's saying. But then Kévin Denkey, Sam, 3 goals, 3 matches in the preseason. This one comes from the PK strike. Always going to be interesting. Is he going to take it? Is Evander going to take it? But he calmly finishes it from the video that we got from FC Cincinnati. What do you think about Denkey's beard, Sam?
No, yeah, I think somebody had put out there like Bucha with the beard, Denkey with the beard, right? Like, are we just, is this beginning of the beard season, since it's going to be, probably decently cold, when we get into MLS play here in February. So Who knows? Who knows?
Yep.
It looks good, right? As long as he's scoring goals, maybe that's the thing, right? Because with Evander's hair last season, right, we were like, hey, don't cut your hair, like you're on fire, right? Maybe it's Denkey with the beard. Maybe he grows it out. I don't know. But Ryan, I think after the goal, not much. I think, like you said, I think Ramirez maybe hits the post again, or I think maybe that is the hit the post before half. But then they had some subs. Hagelin comes in, Anunga comes in, and then you see Evan Louro come in. And Ryan, I mean, I don't know if you've seen it as much as I have, but I've seen a lot of people, not only like in our comments, but just on the feed. A lot of people want Louro to start more often this season rather than Celentano.
You see it a lot more in the comment section. I think a lot of people, love Louro's play, when Celentano was out. And, honestly, he did really well. So he's earned some minutes there, but I don't know if he's going to take over the spot from Roman, clearly just based on what we've seen the past, 3-4 seasons now, he's taken that job. But it is interesting. We talked about it, I think, going into playoffs. That was a big talking point.
Yeah.
What was going to happen with that. And there's still people kind of calling for that too. And then we're signing, another keeper. So what does that look like as well? But yeah, as we get these subs in the second half, it sounds like from everything that we still, look threatening. You want to see a good mixture of the guys here in preseason and, in situations where you have injuries, like we found ourselves in the last several seasons, honestly, is like, how can these guys integrate well and how can we call upon our depth? I think, last year I had to say it was probably the deepest team on paper. This year, yet to be seen, what that looks like, at least from a talent standpoint or on paper standpoint. So we see a couple of these guys come in, like Mamba Dem, I think, comes in at wing back. Were you a little bit surprised about that?
I mean, once again, you're trying things out. It just depends on you want to find a role for these guys. Because I know last year we were like, oh, they signed, Mboma to a first team contract. Are they going to loan him out? Right. But if they're going to keep him, you got to find somewhere for him to play. So yeah, I mean, these late substitutions, I mean, as far as, what we're reading from Carter and, some other people, the tempo kind of dipped, right?
Yeah.
As both sides were rotating a little bit more. And at that point, you're just trying to, be more disciplined as a squad. But once again, a little 1-0 victory, Ryan. So, I mean, takeaways are this is the first preseason win. We'll take it, right? But once again, you're not seeing a whole lot of creativity up top. Just having one guy scoring the goals right now in preseason is a little worrisome, even though, it is just preseason, but you're winning 1-0 against a USL championship squad who finished 8th last year. And so, I mean, I need to see more, or I need to at least hear more, right? As far as, what Carter's writing.
This is all just based on writing, and like, obviously you see the score sheet, you see who scores, it's a PK. I mean, it sounds like we hit the post, we were knocking at the door. Like,
it's not all based on writing. I mean, we hear from Pat, we hear from Chris, like, I mean, Pat's, it seems like he's just as frustrated, right? So, I mean, I don't think we didn't hear from him after this match. Maybe Orlando City will hear from him, but I don't know. Right? Ultimately, like, what were your takeaways though?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We can't just rely upon Kévin Denkey. Like, I want to hear more about, like, again, like I talked about last episode, Evander. What's Evander doing, this preseason? Is he creating chances? Is he shooting? I think he had one shot this game that I think was from inside the box early on. The keeper had to make a save on, but I like to see Bryan Ramirez contributing. He had, like I said, one that went off the post. He had a few crosses, and then previous matches, like, I'm sure he's been doing that, but we just hadn't heard about it. But I really am intrigued to kind of see how we can unlock that left side, because that was kind of the big question mark last year for this team. So how can we rely upon him in his service, to unlock these guys in the center, and how are we using him to kind of build out of the back? So yeah, that's my takeaway. Ultimately, like, results are results in preseason. We've had, it seems like, again, several chances, but when push comes to shove and we go to Champions Cup and we're winning, 4 or 5-0, like, I think we're not going to be too mad, then. But compared to years past, we've had matches, I think even in preseason, Sam, where we've been winning, 2-3-0 or, 3-1 even.
Well, that's Ryan. You got someone in the comments here saying, if we don't at least have 4 or 3-0 victories this year, consider it a flop, which can't go. I wouldn't go that far, but
well, and we just haven't seen that dominance, though. I mean, it's kind of right. Like, we want to see, like, what did Chris Albright say? Like, we want to go and win convincingly, and you beat a USL team in preseason with a PK. But on the flip side, Sam, the first several games we gave up a goal in each respective game. This game didn't give up a goal. Is there some improvement, with the back line there? It's interesting because we're definitely going to have to roll out a little bit of a rotated center back unit to start the season with Miazga. At this point, he's not starting the season, based on timing and what we've seen. So my question to you, Sam, we've been kind of tinkering with who the back three is. I think moving forward, we have a couple preseason matches this week. You're going to start to see that center back unit moving forward to start the season, and they can really get kind of comfortable with each other. And for me, that's probably Nick Hagelin, that's probably Miles Robinson, and that's probably Teenage Adebe.
Yeah, I know we'll touch on it in the second half here. We're gonna kind of break down what the defense looks like, but it is interesting going forward, the health of our players, and are we going to bring anybody else in, or are we just going to try and highlight some of the younger guys? Which, and speaking of the younger guys, right, we picked up another preseason friendly, playing tomorrow, or when you're listening to this via podcast today, Tuesday, February 10th. We're playing Brooklyn FC, who is a new club to the USL Championship. Will begin their first season of play here in 2026 for that, and so we'll likely see probably a rotated squad, considering we have Orlando City the very next day, which was interesting. But I did see today that Carter had said some FCC2 guys have joined the training down in Florida, being Jack Mize, who had just been signed on to FCC2, Will Kiesel, and Felix Sampson. So trying to get some younger guys, hopefully, maybe even see them potentially in the future getting some loans into the USL Championship against that level of competition.
Yeah. No, I mean, in some rotation, just because we have a match the next day too. We have a game on, February 11th as well. So not everyone's going to play, in both matches, and you'll probably see more of the younger guys. Would you imagine, Sam, on the 10th against Brooklyn? I would think. Yeah. And then we play, I think, Orlando the next day following that. So don't quote me on that one. I'm pretty sure, though. Is it Orlando?
Yeah, I had just said that.
Oh, my bad. My bad about that. But other new news, we finally got a kit leak. Sam, if you want to kind of pull it up here, this is kind of on like a random Thursday evening to start here, actually. We had a guy we're going to shout out here, Ronaldo Fan Meow, which is a hilarious name here, tweeted out a photo first of what looked like a kid wearing this kit. It looked like it was in OTR originally, may have been featured at like a kit reveal, West End Club kid, potentially. So you see that one. And then Footy Headlines, this website that comes out with like all of the kits from across the world. They come out with this kit that, if you guys are watching, you're seeing here. And the jersey features, again, it was a white base. We're a little bit surprised. I know for a while there we were thinking orange, but white with some orange kind of going down, a stripe pattern, maybe, a reference to the hills of Cincinnati, the 7 hills. That's kind of what we're hearing buzz about, maybe. But Sam, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it seems kind of mediocre to me. Obviously, it a lot of people were like, hey, let's wait until, we see it in person. But I mean, my opinion of it, it's, I was expecting more. I really wanted an orange kit. As you saw, if you saw like our mock-ups, was really excited for an orange kit. But I mean, I don't know. There's going to be debate, right? Obviously now immediately between this and the canvas kit, like which one is more. I saw some people that were like, I actually like the canvas kit, and this is just throwing some lines on a plain kit, which right now, like I can't unsee that. But at the same time, the faded orange looks a little peach. So hopefully that looks better in person. But yeah, I mean, I feel like as the season goes on, a kid always grows on you. But I don't know. I'm not excited about this one.
Yeah, I don't know, Sam. Like for me, it's a combination of our like 2019 original kit that we had in the MLS, with some of the patterning that you see, and then the 2021 white kit that we had as well kind of had like these geometric looking like triangles. So it's kind of like a mixture of that. I think you had a photo even, of the Inter Milan kit 2020, 2021, I think had a very, very similar pattern to this. But yeah, we got a lot of reactions. I mean, several people, with we did a hit or miss, did we hit it or did we miss the mark? And the fan verdict appears to be leaning miss, but again, this is subject to change because as I'm wearing it tonight, the canvas kit did grow on a lot of people. At first, everyone thought it was fairly plain, but I think it grew on a lot of people. It was pretty simple, but the missed comments, Sam, if you want to walk us through what we heard here, was pretty interesting.
Yeah, so the people saying that it was a miss, which a lot of people, well, I think I saw a lot, as in like 1 or 2 comments out of the 50 plus comments we got on all platforms, which somebody said it kind of gives them the Charlie Brown vibes of the Columbus Crew, similar, stripe comparison floating around there. And then once again, kind of like an ongoing frustration, I guess, with a concept heavy instead of something bold and simple, which would have been, that orange would have been a lot more bold than what we've gotten with the canvas kit and potentially with this one. And then once again, like I said, a lot of people calling for that orange to have as a base more of like a primary identity rather than a white base kit going forward. And then, like you had said, some fans giving, 2021 away kit comparisons. And then you and I, with the Inter Miami, and then you had shouted out the Philly 2 team from 2024. So if you go to look at that, that's, pretty close as well as far as the vertical pattern there. And then a few people, like I said, blaming kind of the mock-up kit and the way it looks because, it is digital. It's not, it's not the exact kit possibly. So I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, Ryan.
And for those listening, like I would imagine this is what it's going to be, but we don't know.
We still don't know, obviously, but we saw somebody wearing a new FC Cincinnati kit, right, on the streets of Cincinnati, and then you get this leak. So, I mean,
did you hear the bacon comment? Have you heard that one?
I did. Yeah, this is like
bacon.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Yeah, but interesting. Again, everyone's entitled to their own opinions on it, and until I see it in person, until I see the guys rocking it, maybe we'll have a different feel. We stuck with at least one solid blue from what it appears to be, based on the leak, I should say. We didn't combine our navy and our royals this time. The people that wrote hit better than the canvas kit, at least a low bar for some, but still kind of praised it. One of the better away kits that we've seen. I don't know, maybe potentially. I like the orange. After a while, it kind of grew on me. And then they're gonna buy it regardless. Like, yeah, I'm there for you. I feel that. I'm one of those people that's gonna buy it regardless. But the wait and see crowd, I get that as well. I know we're talking a lot about the kit, but it represents the club, represents our identity, and you see a lot of cool kits around the world. We can kind of get into it as we finally see the MLS ones come out, but some of the other leaks, like I'm not a huge fan of what's been going on across the MLS this year from what we've seen. So we shall see. But as we talk about this and as you're listening, if you are listening, when this comes out, the release date is actually going to be tonight. So we'll be there. We're going to be set for the kit launch at the stadium. Look out for some, content from that and
February 10th. Yeah.
February 10th, so we'll see what we think. And I'm sure next episode we'll do another deep dive on this as well. It won't be as lengthy, but some other FC Cincinnati news. So goals.com or goal.com, I should say, did a top 25 MLS players ranking, and Miles Robinson fell at 14. Evander fell at number 7. I don't know, Sam. What are you thinking about that? I feel like for an MVP candidate, Evander's getting gypped there a little bit.
Yeah, I want to say the people ahead of him were Dennis Bouanga, I think obviously like Messi was number one. You had Son up there as well. I think they maybe had Thomas Muller up there as well in front of Evander, which all valid, I guess, around the same, star power. But in our mind, we think Evander's at least top five, considering the back-to-back seasons that he had were MVP-esque, right?
Yeah.
And then Miles Robinson, being 14th, I feel like that's valid. Out of the top 25 players in the league, he falls in the top 15. I'll take that.
You never know. Again, we've talked about these ranking systems before, and who knows what weight people put on this and not. But it kind of likens to, you see like the MLB does theirs, the NFL does their top like 100 players. I think this is one of the first times, Sam, I've ever seen anyone do like an MLS power rankings like this for players, not just for the team. So we'll see. A lot of big names are coming into the league as well. James Rodriguez, we're going to talk about him a little bit later, but he comes into the league. So another big player. But FC Cincinnati 2 just today signed a new player, Sam. Who do we have?
Yeah, so FCC 2 signed Leo Oreharena. Oreharena.
I think that's good. Leo Oreharena.
I had to sound it out. That was like, I thought that was really good. I had to do it out loud, not only for me, but everybody listening as well. 18-year-old midfielder. He's played with the MLS Next Pro North Texas SC prior to joining FC Cincinnati, and he actually won the 2024 MLS Next Pro Cup with them, which is pretty cool. But he also has experience in FC Barcelona's academy, and then playing in the U.S. youth national camps as well. So that brings your total to 11 players for FCC2.
11 that are on, I think, the website, correct? I mean, I'm sure.
I don't even know if they're on the website right now, Ryan. That was what I found the last press release, right? When we signed the Vasquez kid on loan, right? It had 10 players. So I added this kid to it and said 11.
Clearly, I mean, we got a starting 11 now,
I guess, yeah.
We got to have some more players
11 bodies.
Their season starts, I think, a little bit later than the first team. So they have a little bit of time to kind of get things together. We saw, I believe they were training at Mercy Health over the past week. So those guys are, in the cold, grinding away. A few of them were lucky, Sam. They got the call to go down to Florida and escape a little bit from that. So that was probably nice. You kind of earned your way to some nice weather there. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they round out their roster and what that looks like for them this year with a new manager, new coach. So what style are they going to implement and kind of play? Is it going to follow the first team? We're kind of intrigued by that. A lot of big names, a lot of promising players though. And more, Sam, like, wouldn't you say from the US this year?
Yeah.
There's still some international guys, but last year was like all international players. This year, a lot more, U.S. domestic type players that we're bringing in and kind of poaching from different places. So that one is interesting to see.
Yeah, it could be the same avenue that we've tried to do for guys like Miles Robinson, right? To really show, hey, we can be a path to the U.S. men's national team for you. So even starting that at the youth level into FCC2 is maybe the way they're going.
Yeah, good shout. Good shout. So we're going to go to an ad break here on the second half. We're going to do a positional breakdown for FC Cincinnati. We're going to start with the back line and goalkeepers. So stay tuned for that. And then Favian Renkel is going to join us here in a little bit. Hey, everyone. The Flying Lion podcast is your home for FC Cincinnati coverage as a part of the Chatterbox Sports family. We're proud to be a part of a growing network of creators who are building real connections with fans across the region as the game continues to grow and in preparation for the 2026 FIFA World Cup hosted in America.
Yeah, and if you're a local business or a brand looking to reach an audience that's passionate, loyal, and plugged into the city's sports scene, this is the place.
Partnering with us is not just supporting a podcast. You're joining a community that celebrates FC Cincinnati and various other Cincinnati sports teams as well. So reach out through our email, which is Flying Lion Pod, FLYIN Lion Pod @gmail.com, or direct message us on social media to learn more about sponsorship and partnering options. Thanks again. Thanks again for joining us tonight. Preseason rolls along, but Sam, as a part of our breakdown for the 2026 season, we're going to do something new. We haven't done this before. We're going to do a positional breakdown. We want to give the people out there listening a little bit of a background of our players and who we think is going to be important for the season, guys that we envision, because we're definitely the people making decisions here. No, I kid. But just to say, like, hey, this is who we think is going to start. This is who we think is going to maybe be more of a rotational player. And then our wildest guess at, hey, for at least, maybe the talented positions, we're going to see some goals from these guys, some assists, maybe even from Roman, what kind of clean sheets we're looking at as well. So we'll see how this goes. If you guys like it, let us know. If you don't, too bad, we're going to do it anyway. But backline and goalkeeper, Sam, our goalkeeper room this year, a little bit different as we go into the season. Just one difference from last year.
Yeah, so starting off, you got Roman Celentano, and then you got Evan Louro, and then we haven't really quite got a club announcement from it yet, but from everything we've seen so far, we've got Favian Rosic coming in from Liverpool, so he could potentially be that third goalkeeper. And then Ryan, walk us through what the center back kind of lineup looks like.
Well, quickly before I go to the center backs, obviously we see Roman as a starter. We've kind of touched on this a little bit earlier on, but I think Louro will feature in maybe some cup competition, as that Leagues Cup, into early fall. But hey, again, a lot of people are shouting for him to make some starts, so maybe we'll see. For me, Sam, I'm going to guess that Celentano this year has about 10 clean sheets is what I'm going to go with. Do you want to lock in a number?
Yeah, I think... Let's see, Celentano. I think he'll have double digits. I'll go 11 or 12.
Okay. A lot of confidence in the back line.
A lot of confidence in him.
Okay. All right.
He's a good
I like
shot
that.
stopper.
No, good shout. Center back room, again, slightly different from last year, but a lot of the same. Miles Robinson, our starter, probably our captain, unless Matt Miazga is out and healthy. Matt Miazga, starter, again, if healthy. Nick Hagelin, going to see a lot of important minutes this year. We always discount him and say he's not going to be a big part, but he's definitely going to. Teenage Hidebe, for me, again, starter. Like right now, I'm kind of reluctant to state that, but our only left-footed center back on the roster right now. So I think Teenage slides in and plays a meaningful part, for this team. His partnership with Bryan Ramirez will be interesting. And then Gilberto Flores, Sam, as the other solidified. So for 3 spots, we only have 2 real kind of backups. If we want to kind of put in guys that we've seen also play center back, I think Alvis Powell and then Kyle Smith could play some role there as the season goes on. And then, like you put here, FCC 2 guys. Andre Shirilla, we think at some point will, make that jump to the first team. He's been playing a lot and training a lot with them. And then Felix Sampson on loan from CF Montreal. So could be interesting to see those guys contribute. We haven't seen that yet under Pat Noonan, but I really don't. You think Andre Shirilla at some point's got to make the jump?
No, that was going to be my hot take in the center back room. Is I think Andre Shirilla will be starting for FC Cincinnati by the end of the year, whether it be in Leagues Cup or, down the road. And, when we need that depth, I just think this kid's got a bright future. And I think Pat really sees it, considering he brings him up a lot more than the other, center backs in the room, as far as, he completely trashed Gilberto Flores for coming in, out of shape. So, We'll see, but that's kind of my hot take there from the center back room. But yeah, the rest of the squad obviously want Matt to be as healthy as possible, because if we get a glimmer, right, of Defender of the Year Matt Miazga, that's going to be the best version of FC Cincinnati immediately.
Yeah, no, I think that's the key for the center back room is, we need a guy that commands the back line, and we've seen what it looks like when he's not there. And hey, we made the club choice to bring him back. Clearly they knew that he was having surgery and cleaning out his knee and getting him ready to go for the season. So hopefully sooner than later we get him back out there. But Sam, as we walk through the outside back / wing back, this will be the last part of the position group we'll cover for this episode. Bryan Ramirez is the big one that stands out, obviously. Left wing back, our starter. For me, I expect him to contribute heavily. I think, from all I've seen, he's going to be a solid player. I might be a little high in this expectation, but 6 goals for me and 8 assists. I really feel like he's going to contribute a lot. Ender Echenike, also starter on the right wing back. I expect maybe 5 goals and 5 assists for him as well, but a spark plug down the side.
Yeah, I think both are, have the potential to have, probably the biggest seasons out of any FC Cincinnati player as far as their expectations and what they can produce, right?
That's a good shout.
I think obviously we know what we get from Evander, we know what we get from Denkey. These two, on the wings could be those pieces that we've been missing. I know we had talked about a lot, the rotation of our wingbacks the past couple of years. It's been a rotating door, right? We really haven't found people, whether it be the quality or people leaving the squad, right, because of their quality. So yeah, I think these two guys, the expectation is that they'll get at least maybe in all competitions, maybe double digits as far as the contributions there. But yeah, we'll see. And then as far as the rest of the wing backs or the outside backs would be like you said, Kyle Smith, Alvis Powell, and then possibly a Bo Madem, playing out wide. I think you had mentioned Teenage being the only left-footed center back. I think that's where Kyle Smith kind of comes into play and can help. In that. Is he left-footed? Is he right-footed? I thought he was left-footed.
I think he might be right.
Is he right?
I'm pretty sure he is. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
yeah, I think he is.
Well, then he won't be able to help. But yeah, I think you're missing maybe one more piece out wide. It just doesn't.
Do you think Dotto gets a shout there? I know they kind of flirted about that. Like Dotto was like, "Hey, I'll play wing back."
I would feel so bad for Dotto if he becomes the new Kubo, right? Where you're just gonna stick him. I would just, especially for
I totally agree. I'm just saying,
a young kid like that, right? I think that could diminish his growth as a 10 because we've seen him, really excel as a 10. I would hate to kind of see him passed around like that, but yeah, I think maybe one more person outside would be helpful.
So Sam, you kind of put on our outline here. Who could be added to this group then?
Yeah, I mean, as far as additions, we've seen, at least last season, right? We had 2 or 3 free agent signings. I know Brad Smith and Kamara were the 2. Maybe those were the only 2 last season, but it is something that FC Cincinnati has done in the past is, since that window is until March 26th, you have a lot of time, which do you assess it now? Do you assess it, a couple games into the regular season? So that way, where you're going to be at depth wise, but a couple guys who are still free agents that could be, helping the back line. Kyle Duncan, 28 years old, right back / winger, previously with New York Red Bulls, could be a decent shout. And then Sam Junkwa, 29-year-old left back, can play center back as well, was previously with RSL. So those are 2 guys that I just, you look up on the free agent list and go, hey, is he still, does he need work? So those are just 2 guys that I had seen.
I think having solidified Alvis Powell there and Kyle Smith last year, who was the backup left wing back? It was Luca Orishano and it was, Engel, so this year maybe feel a little bit better about that. But yeah, that's kind of the position that you look at and say all right, but if all else fails, where do we go to?
Yeah.
Athletic people that can play defense and offense. That's such a tough position.
Especially the way they want to play and everything too.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see with that. Reminder, the primary transfer window for the MLS, it is going on now until Thursday, March 26th. So we have time, to add some players. We talked about it in prior podcasts, no idea if Chris is going to exercise that. We do have a little bit of flexibility, not a ton, but some flexibility. Does he wait until the summer? I don't know. We'll see. I think he wants to kind of see how the beginning of the season goes.
Yeah, I think so. Like I had said, we did that last year, right? Where it was hey, we know we need help up top. Oh, hey, let's bring in Kai Kamara, right? So I could potentially see that where you feel out the roster a little bit, and then you fill some holes where you think it's needed. But Ryan, I had seen that MLSsoccer.com had put out something comparing our 2023 wingbacks to 2026. I wanted to get your take on this because Alvaro Barreal and Santiago Arias were those guys in 2023 when we won the Supporter Shield. and then now you're looking at a duo in Bryan Ramirez and Ender Echenike. What do you kind of make of that shuffling of the wingback position that we have had the past couple of seasons, and where do you compare the potential, right, of the 2026 wingbacks?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to look back, because if you told me last year, you're like, well, wingback for FC Cincinnati, that should be pretty solid. Luca Orishano came off a huge year. That's where I saw, or is it going to be, Engel? Weren't really sure about him, but at least you had Yedlin. That was an experienced guy, had a ton of minutes in the MLS. Maybe he wasn't a true wingback, but you felt solid about him, in that spot. It's interesting that he makes the comparison, though, to 2023. Obviously, that's our shield year. And Barrial and Arias were just monsters. And that's really what made this team kind of click in the system, and the connections that both players had, with Lucho Acosta. So I think that in the same setting, like if Bryan Ramirez and Evander can get on the same page, huge. And if Ender Echenike can beat guys down the line and get good service, I mean, that's what we were missing. We were missing vertical threats last year down the flanks to beat teams. Like before, we would kind of get channeled down the middle, and there wasn't really any progression there. Or Denkey would get hounded, by the center backs, and nothing would kind of go through. So on paper, yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge potential for this. It's interesting that I think everyone has kind of circled that this year and said that could be kind of the make or break for this team.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is like, we still don't really have a proven, second striker, but everyone's circling, wingbacks as that thing. So I think that this has the potential to be the answer. Is it too much of an expectation, Sam, to ask these guys to come in and to do all of that right away? I don't think there's that much pressure, like necessarily on them. It's not like we brought in a new 10 or a new striker necessarily that has to put all that on their shoulders, but they come into a system and they kind of plug in, at least, with Ender. He's had last season. You saw what he could do. How can he now build on that? Ramirez, maybe I'm asking a little bit too much of him, but any thought about that?
No, yeah. I mean, if you're going comparison to 2023, right? You had a young guy in Barrial, right? You can kind of equate that a little bit with Ender Echenike, a little bit, very, fast, can really run up the side. We have yet to see kind of his cross ability that we've wanted to see from somebody out wide like that. But in Bryan Ramirez, right? Obviously a little bit younger than Arias was at the time, but once again, a veteran guy who has won trophies and is coming into the squad, bringing that presence. So an interesting comparison, nonetheless, but I do think the potential is definitely there. But I don't think there's, like you said, like, I don't want to put like too much pressure on the wingbacks, right? Because those are the newest guys. Like Ender just joined, in August, right? So I don't know. We'll see. Just thought it was interesting.
Well, and now's the time that everyone kind of like goes and deep dives, every single team. And it's funny to me that, Matt Doyle is kind of doing this and circling that for this team. There's so many different storylines, but that he picks, the wingbacks as that comparison. So that's interesting. Sam, we did have the beginning of some CONCACAF Champions Cup play. We did have San Diego. They won against Pumas. Crazy game. They went down 0-1 and came back in the second half and just destroyed them. I was honestly surprised. I woke up in the morning because I did not stay up for this one. It was a late night match. And to see that they won, I was looking at their lineup, and I mean, they had such young players that, really weren't even on the squad last year. They really are a stylistic type, plug and play team. This is without Chucky Lozano. Like, it's pretty impressive. There is no Corey Baird out there, for those wondering. He's not playing for San Diego this season. But yeah, it was impressive nonetheless.
No, it was a surprise to me because immediately, like you said, I didn't stay up for this. But Pumas, their first goal, they scored the first goal, and I don't know if did you see it? It was like a bike. I believe it was a bicycle kick, slash scissor kick. It was amazing. So for them to come out like that, and for San Diego to go, hey, we'll be fine, and then to put 4 on them, I mean, that's pretty impressive from an MLS squad. Usually, the Liga MX squads have gotten the better of the MLS over the years in this competition. So is it a sign to come this Champions Cup? We'll see.
I wanted to apologize to everyone listening last episode. I said Vancouver was playing. Who would have thought there was a Vancouver FC that is not the Vancouver that's in the MLS? So I apologize. That was the wrong one. So tomorrow is the second leg. As we see, San Diego is playing Pumas. That's at 8 p.m. And then 10 p.m. Tigres and Forge FC, the team in Canada. I don't know if you saw that first round match. I think it ended up being a 0-0 game. But it was like -5 or -10 with wind chill for this match. And you see Tigres go up and have to play there. And I'm honestly hoping, because this is a team that we could potentially be playing. Whoever wins this, and if we win our matchup, we play this team next. So does Forge FC have a chance going down to Monterrey and playing Tigres, Sam?
I mean, that was crazy to see to see Tigres have to go up into Canada and play in that environment. I think, you had seen the Forge. I think I had seen them tweet something where it's like, hey, welcome to Canada, right? Like, good luck up here. And I mean, 0-0 victor or 0-0 draw, right, is exactly kind of the atmosphere that you would expect from playing in just snow. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how well they do down in Mexico now. The first leg's done, so we'll see what the second leg looks like.
Yeah. So, and as we go along into this, I think Monterrey had also played in their match. So their first one, they actually tied 1-1. Luke Orishano featured in that one. I think he actually started his first match for them. So that will be coming up on Wednesday. Club America also playing. And then I think is really the next week when we really kind of dive into the rest of the MLS squads that are in CONCACAF Champions Cup. We're again next Wednesday, February 18th is ours. That's going to be at 8 p.m. against O&M. Everyone pack their bags, traveling down to the Dominican Republic for that one. But yeah, it is interesting to see, at the start of the season, how these MLS clubs are going to fare. The turnaround is crazy, for some of these clubs. So pretty nuts with that. But I think we have our guests joining us here. Favian, thanks for joining us. I'm Ryan. This is Sam here. We were just chatting a little ball about CONCACAF Champions Cup, but thanks for joining us tonight.
No, thank you for having me on. It's a true honor to be on. I mean, I've been seeing your guys' content everywhere. I mean, TikTok and short form is like the new thing. So you guys are killing it over there. So I'm happy to be on.
Appreciate you joining. For everyone listening to us tonight, we had kind of highlighted earlier in the episode, you are journalists. You have a big kind of base with Kickbase USA that you kind of joined, it looked like, back in December. Tell our listeners and our fans here kind of about your beginnings and where you're at now.
Yeah, look, so a couple of years ago, I started off as a podcaster for the San Jose Earthquakes on the show called Tectonic Takes. I started off as a fan, right? And then I got invited to a press conference for the Earthquakes. And then my writing career kind of took off from there. I was in a very lucky kind of situation where the home team reporters really only covered the Earthquakes. They didn't really care too much about the away team. So honestly, what I kind of figured out for my content and my articles is, why don't I just interview guys like Lucho Acosta one-on-one? Why don't I just interview guys like Henny Mukhtar one-on-one? Because there's nobody here. And then I'm able to go ahead and satisfy the market, or at least, the community with, details of how these superstars around the league are playing, right? So one that really rings really close to home for me and for you guys is I was able to announce Evander's, number change when he was at Portland. And that was something that I got to do with interviewing him one-on-one in Coachella Valley. As you guys know, that's going on right now. But yeah, all these opportunities I took to kind of, maybe put my head in a market that I'm not too used to, or, to supply that market with new news is something I never took for granted. And that kind of made me jump in terms of kind of like national media. And then when Messi came to town, there wasn't too many bilingual kind of reporters. So I was able to kind of, jump in and translate him maybe a little differently than the official press release, right? So, it's all down to interpretation. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of another place. And then also, since I grew up a soccer fan, and you know, a lot of my friends weren't soccer fans. I always had this mantra of, you know, teaching people why this was important. And I kind of did that when Messi came along. I put a list of all your favorite athletes in the United States, and I said, hey, Messi dwarfs everybody's Instagram follower count combined. You know, like this is like the biggest, you know, offseason transfer move. But yeah, that's kind of how I got my beginnings. And then I wrote for the Athletic and the New York Times for Uruguay and the World Cup draw. And I'm hoping to keep, you know, my partnership with them as a journalist. And then I'm here with Kickbase now.
That's awesome. I mean, really, like, started, you know, just covering the local team, and now you're at a national, almost like world level, right? Which is really cool. In only how many years?
Yeah, honestly, it's the 4th year now for me.
I mean, so that's pretty solid, especially like when you've been grinding, right? As hard as I'm sure, like Ryan and I have seen, you know, the stuff you put out. So you're obviously working hard, and people recognize that. It's really cool to kind of see like where you started, right? And then like, go ahead.
Are you still a San Jose fan with everything that's going on, man?
I'm not allowed to be a fan necessarily. Okay. But also working in the industry and kind of being a reporter, you kind of see how the sausage is made. So it's almost like, you know, you might have certain kind of ideas. Now, when I interviewed Chris Wondolowski, I was a little starstruck because I grew up as a fan when I was a kid, and then having season tickets when I was older and things like that. But besides that, it's almost, since the teams are different from when I was growing up, it's a little easier for me now to kind of say, okay, well, this isn't the Earthquakes team that I loved, right? That's the Goonies from 2012 and everything like that. And then this is kind of like my career and my job now. So, of course, I mean, it's always nice to, you know, okay, I'll take this back. Let me say this. When I was coming up, I was really covering a lot of MLS Next Pro. And seeing guys go from MLS Next Pro to MLS that I covered is one of my favorite things. A guy that really made that jump was Max Arfston. So I've really been able to interview him multiple times throughout his career now. And seeing him jump from MLS Next Pro to MLS is something I love seeing, because a lot of these guys, it's so weird, man. They're like, yeah, man, I've been following you for years. Like, I love your content. I'm like, bro, you're the content now. like you're the player, you know, like,
you're like,
nobody.
You gave me a job like that.
Right. So it's just funny to see, like, a guy like Bo Louro. I interviewed him last year. He's a standout player for the Earthquakes, young player, great player. And he was like, bro, I've been following you for years. And I was like, what are you talking about, man? You just scored the Cali Classico. Get out of here, you know, like, you know, I'm nobody, you know, so it's just interesting. But I love seeing that. And that's one of my favorite things. Chance Cowell is another guy who I know very, very closely. He made the trade to RSL now, and hopefully he gets some more minutes over there. But I would say I'm not necessarily a fan of the team too much, but I love seeing young players succeed. And if I can do anything to kind of, you know, put a spotlight on young players or help them in their career, that always makes me feel a little bit better too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something Ryan and I have tried to, you know, do through our podcast as well. I feel like not a lot of the other FC Cincinnati podcasts touch on the academy or MLS Next Pro enough, right?
Yeah.
And I think it helps to educate people like, hey, like, this could be somebody you see in the next, you know, 2 to 3 years, and you just don't know the quality that they're showing off right now.
Yeah, look, I'm a big believer in MLS Next Pro and even USL. Like, I love the lower leagues and the US Open Cup, for that matter, of the states, because it's the beauty of the sport in a way. You know, have you guys ever been to like a minor league baseball game? It's that feeling, right? Like, who knows, this guy could be something, but at the end of the day, if they don't become something, at least you have a connection or a contact that's in the industry or doing something else too, because a lot of guys don't forget, you know, you try to amplify them and things like that.
Yeah, no, good shout. As Sam and I were talking about the MLS season, we're pumped, obviously, to have the season finally start. What big headlines would you like to kind of point at and headline? We'll get maybe globally or US based. Obviously, with the World Cup going on, we can touch on that, you know, separately. But and then maybe for FC Cincinnati as well.
Yeah, look, let's start with FC Cincinnati. I mean, let's talk FC Cincinnati.
Let's do it.
Okay, so I love this team, and let me tell you why. Okay. I don't know a single MLS team that says, don't even look at our stars. They're ours, okay? I don't know a single MLS team that has the balls, excuse my language, like FC Cincinnati, okay? And when it comes to Denkey and Evander. Now, Tom Bogert came out and said, maybe those rumors aren't totally true. But even if they weren't true, the stance is the same, right? So we're not selling these guys. It's the beginning of the season. We're going for the Supporters Shield. And this is something that I love to see from teams in MLS. To me, this is kind of like a changing of the guard of MLS teams. And Cincinnati's kind of leading the charge in that, where fans love stars. Americans love stars. They went to go honestly save a star from MLS and grabbing Evander. And then, and now they're not selling too early on these guys. And now Cincinnati fans can go to the stadium, rock their Evander jersey and Denkey jersey with pride, and really believe that this team is gonna lift some, silverware. So no, I'm excited. You guys have something great going over there in Cincinnati. I haven't been to a game yet. I want to really bad. But yeah, man, you guys have killer defense. The new guys that came in should do some damage too. And then of course Evander and Denkey, I think they're just gonna pick up right where they left off.
Yeah, I was just going to kind of add to that, obviously it's hard for a fan and a true supporter to see that kind of interest, in those big players. But yeah, like you said, to be able to maintain them, because I think, around the league, I think everyone would kind of be like, well, that's a huge number. How do I not?
40 million for any player in MLS,
right?
Would be insane. Even Son, it would be insane.
And so that's what I think is crazy with what's going on with Denny Bouanga right now too. It's kind of like a similar type thing. And I know LA is kind of battling back and forth with that, but to start your season, you want to have your guys. And this team is rolling out a lot of the same from the year before. From our standpoint, we're saying, hey, is that a good thing or not? We were that close to Supporters Shield last year, but there's still some cracks that we're seeing, with the defense potentially and things like that. So I think that's kind of where our head is at, and it's interesting from, more of a U.S. perspective, and even from your perspective, hey, being able to retain that's a good thing for this team and what that looks like moving forward.
Yeah, look, a lot of teams are really kind of like always picking up the pieces. Like maybe not the best teams in MLS, but I'm just kind of thinking like Austin, like they might get rid of Uzuni, they got rid of Bukhari, and they're basically starting brand new again, right? In MLS, having consistency and continuity is so underrated. And Cincinnati's been able to do it all the time. And it's something that, you get past the wooden spoon seasons and the rough start. But man, Cincinnati with Noonan now is like a contender every single year. And this would be the year, in my opinion, that would possibly, kind of really compete for a Supporters Shield. Because I do think Miami is going to kind of take it slow at the beginning of the season. I think they understand that they could win playoff games. And I think they're going to really go for CONCACAF Champions Cup. But if Cincinnati can really pile up the points right now, and Evander and Denkey, I mean, luckily and not luckily, they're not really in the World Cup conversation. This is their World Cup. So this could be a moment where they kind of get a lead, just like kind of Philly did last year, and then not look behind, So I think this is if I'm a Cincy fan, and I am circling for the win, to be honest.
No, yeah, I think ultimately, like what you're looking for from an FC Cincinnati fan, we've seen it, on Twitter, like just people talking about it, is if we don't get a Supporters Shield, we don't get an MLS Cup, we don't succeed in Leagues Cup and get, silverware, right? You could see Pat Noonan possibly exit just because we haven't seen the return on the investments, right? From a trophy winning standpoint. As far as like the Evander Denkey like turnover that you see in the MLS, right? We got extremely lucky last year with bagging Evander, right? Right. You saw the Lucho drama within FC Cincinnati that happened in January, a month before Champions Cup, and Evander shows up to Champions Cup and just immediately dominates, right? So like we got lucky on that from that standpoint to like retain, like you said, him in the MLS. But I want to touch on real quick if you don't mind shifting from FC Cincinnati for a second. Another big name joining the MLS and James Rodriguez, this past week. Like in your mind, like what does this mean for the MLS, even if it is just short term with, a potential for a long term?
Yeah, look, I mean, I love this move, even if it's short term, and maybe this is like a business kind of thing for me, like I'm kind of like, it's good for business. Let's just let it fly, No, but 100%, it's a TAM deal. It's 6 months. Minnesota really does need something to look forward to, and this is like a perfect thing, after losing St. Clair, Lud, and really having no identity because your coach kind of goes to Europe and you have a new guy come in. What better than signing an international superstar that's going to fill out your stadium every week in and week out, right? Like, I honestly, even if, this is going to be a crazy thing, but even if he doesn't live up to what people think of him, to me, it's still a win. I mean, you don't lose anything. I mean, you're going to sell jerseys. I hate to say it that way, but you're going to sell jerseys. You're going to sell tickets. Even if he, gives you in 6 months, let's say 6 goals and 8 assists, that's a win in my book. I mean, you got some production out of a guy that maybe, hasn't done so well in his last clubs, and you gave your team hope. I think that's the biggest thing with James Rodriguez going to Minnesota is that this team now is going into the season with hope. I mean, after losing a guy like St. Clair that's been there from the start, losing Lud, maybe one of the most underrated players in this league, and you're going into the season with hope that, hey, we're going to ball out in the Western Conference, at least for these first 6 months, and then we'll see how we do after. And for Minnesota to land a guy like that is insane.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, I know what the initial reports were like. Wasn't Orlando City in on him? Like
Orlando, Austin,
Miami.
Like
that was a surprise that none of those, like, those two teams are a little bit more have a little bit more of a Latin-based crowd, right?
Yeah,
would have loved to have a Colombian star, before the World Cup. I would have assumed, right?
Yeah, look, I think more reports are going to come out, but to me, this is kind of like, who had the discovery rights? Was it Minnesota? And they just said, let's just shoot our shot. Let's just shoot our shot. It's like, let me send a DM to a girl way out of my league and let's see if it lands. And it does. And then all of a sudden, everybody thinks you're the funniest guy in the world. No, but this is so crazy to me because I haven't seen any Minnesota sends 50K in GAM over to.
Oh yeah.
So it looks like they might have his discovery rights, and it looks like maybe this is a situation where he was like, you know what, if they want me, they have my rights. Let's just do it.
Let's play ball. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. and it's more like, it's interesting because you would think a guy like that. I mean, he's already played in Madrid. He's playing in Bayern. Like, he's already played at the heights of soccer. Maybe New York isn't that appealing to him. I don't know. I think it would be. But then again, maybe a guy like James being outside of that bubble or outside of the bigger cities maybe helps him get more focus for a World Cup, So that's something to keep in mind because, again, it's always national team first for James, and that's the 100% truth. But in terms of what you're getting and possibly getting in this deal, I think 100% this is a home run. And it almost is like in my opinion, this is like a new era of MLS where you're getting these international superstars coming to MLS, going to different teams. I know this one hurts, guys, but Thomas Mueller going to Vancouver is so baffling, to me. But that one seems like he just liked the city of Vancouver and said, I'm going to play ball here. I'm going to pay more taxes, but that's cool, I have all the money in the world already. No, and then Marco Royce going to play in LA as a TAM player that, they're like, hey, we want you here, but we don't want to pay you that money. And then to me, this is kind of like, wow, like this is a way that MLS is changing right in front of our eyes. And in the words of Andrew Wiebe, teams are getting creative. All right. and I think this is showing that, no, but I love it. I love Wiebe. I love that Minnesota United post that they said we got creative.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny too.
That was pretty funny. Do you think that on the same token, the Timo Werner going to San Jose was along the same lines of, like, you're talking about, big stars like that going to places you wouldn't maybe always expect?
Yeah, like Timo Werner going to San Jose is just as shocking too. But I mean, the level of James is completely different, especially to Latinos. It's like, it's really, he's in the top 5. Like, Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar, and maybe James is in there, right? Like, in terms of global superstar and face and recognition power. Timo Werner is so weird for the Quakes that, like, he said Bruce Arena came to Leipzig and brought PowerPoints and showed him where San Jose was, and that was kind of interesting because he was just out and about, like, oh, I've had friends that have been to San Francisco and it's close, and I saw that San Jose is close, and that it could be the Mallorca of the United States. And I was like, this is kind of wild that he's being this honest. But hey, whatever it does,
whatever gets him here,
right? Exactly, whatever it takes, it works. And no, I mean, it's San Jose's biggest signing since George Best back in '76 when it was the NASL days, and they were all trying to bring behemoths in. Like San Jose's never signed a European player like of his pedigree. So San Jose Earthquakes fans are really heartbroken because of Espinoza and Chicho Arango and everything, like basically the whole offense. But at least they have a little bit of hope with Timo Werner and the boys playing. All right, it's Timo Werner and the boys out there.
Yeah, it seems like that. I mean, from the Western Conference now to the Eastern Conference, like we've seen the last several years, it's been very dominant on that side. Obviously, Inter Miami, winning MLS Cup last year. Any kind of bold predictions that you think maybe for Eastern Conference wise or MLS in general?
Let me give you a bold prediction here for the MLS entirely. Here we go. I don't think Lionel Messi is going back to back in MVP. Okay. I think we're going to see Lionel Messi kind of slow down a little bit before the World Cup. If you take a look at his Copa America numbers, he was playing at an unreal kind of pace and was really getting 4 assists every clip, Mm-hmm. But he wasn't playing that many games or possibly not getting as many minutes because he wanted to stay healthy for the World Cup. Sometimes they were saying it was a knock. Maybe he didn't want to risk it, right? Or it was Copa America, excuse me. And he didn't want to risk it. I think we're going to see that same kind of, regimen for Leo Messi this season. So you got guys like Son in the league that are going to just tear up the league. And I think I ran his numbers last year. And if he played a full 30 games, or excuse me, a full, let's say, slate of games, mm-hmm. he would have gotten 30 goals. Very similar kind of year to what Carlos Vela had when he had that career, really MLS record-breaking year. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say I think Son is going to win the MVP this year. I think Messi's going to maybe take some games off here and there to get ready for the World Cup, and I think that's a place where Son can kind of excel, especially if Bouanga stays and he has his, co-captain with him. Because there was a moment where those guys were like 13 goals out of the 15 goals. The last 4 games were them. And it was just like unreal level of play with those two guys. And I think this team may be better now. If I'm not mistaken, they have a DP slot open. And who knows? What if they bring in a Griezmann and it just even opens up the place even more for Son, So it's interesting. It's going to be a crazy ride. But I think Son might have the edge on Messi in this year because Messi may have the World Cup in mind.
Do you think Evander has a shot? I know he's been in the runnings the last couple of years, but we got to talk about our Cincy guy.
Yeah, look, Evander is and always will be an MVP candidate. I mean, he balls out, and I love the way he plays. He always has that one quote where it's like, I would be MVP if Messi wasn't in this league.
Right.
And now he might have to deal with, I would be MVP if Son wasn't in this league, Yeah. And I think he could have since he really hits the ground running and they get a crazy amount of points and they win the Supporter Shield, who knows? Maybe it's more of like a merit thing where, Evander helped Cincy truly run away with the Supporter Shield. Maybe he's like 3 or 4 goal contributions less, but it was really evident that he was the MVP of the year. I could see Evander kind of, pulling away with an MVP. And he's always in the race, and he's always somewhere in there. Now, it's tough to win MVP in MLS because players get to vote. So that's a big deal when name recognition kind of is really appealing to a lot of players. Maybe they feel like they're on the same level as Evander. So maybe he loses some votes there because if it's like, you're voting for a guy like Messi, or if you're voting for a guy like Son, you're always like, oh, they're legendary players. It's an easier vote instead of, a guy that you can possibly beat on a Wednesday night in Colorado, right? So My thing is the players voting is always kind of iffy for me, to be honest. And that's why, in my opinion, Messi did deserve, the MVPs, but he wins in a landslide and it's not even close, because he has I want to say like 80% of the player vote, which is wild.
Yeah, I think you saw that effect. Even like a name like Anders Dreyer, like he had a phenomenal like first season with San Diego last season, and maybe it's because once again he's out west, right? So it's later games, people don't see it as much, but you go with the stat sheet, you go, oh my gosh, this dude almost had as much goal comps as Messi as well, right? So he was up there, and I feel like him and Evander are kind of in the same level where it's like, hey, they easily could be MVP. However, like you said, they're overshadowed by these other big names that the player might have a bigger player vote.
Yeah, and I hate to say it, but clicks and views matter too, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes to MVP voting, because maybe there's some reporters out there, like I live on the East Coast now, and I 100% did not watch that San Diego CONCACAF match that ended at 1 a.m. for us. And I was like,
we were
hell?
just talking about that. Yeah.
I was like, I didn't even know they were playing. I was in bed already before they started, right? Like, this is kind of wild to me. So with that in mind too, I do believe the East Coast bias. I hate to say it.
Yeah.
Like they talked about this all the time in other sports. And now that I'm, witnessing it 100%, I believe it.
Yeah.
But I think, Evander could have a chance if they win some silverware and they kind of really ball out.
Yeah. I wanted to real quickly touch on, so MLS ranked top in the world actually in spending this window. Any thoughts to that? And maybe it's tied to the World Cup coming up as well.
Yeah, it's kind of weird to me, honestly. Do you know who said they ranked it just in transfer mark or?
Yeah, it was transfer market, and then there were like ESPN had a couple articles that they came out with that had
fourth.
Yeah,
MLS was fourth.
MLS was like third or fourth. Obviously, depending on the source, but top 5 right in the world. Which you go back, you go, this is our main transfer window. But at the same time, like Ryan said, a lot of squads are trying to get their players in before the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what kind of big transfer that wasn't a free transfer came in. Like a fat transfer, like Latte Loth was last year, right? Almiron was last year. I'm trying to think. What's a Denkey was last year, right? Oh, Betarame, I guess for 18 million. That's a big one.
Maybe they think DePaul as well, just being official now.
Okay.
I don't know if they consider that.
Yeah, no, that would count, right?
Yeah.
That is interesting, but you are paying a premium for these players because it's before the World Cup, right? You're kind of banking on these players being okay with leaving for, let's quote, air quote, subpar league before they hit the World Cup stage, because a lot of coaches in the national teams, they don't really value MLS. Like I've seen it personally with Marcelo Bielsa with Uruguay. I mean, outright say that MLS is a lazy league. So the stigma is still, it's lower than Europe. So I assume MLS teams are paying a little bit of a premium right now because teams are in the middle of their season. Plus, it's more or less like, okay, the World Cup season year, or it's a World Cup year. So maybe you're paying a little bit of a bump because teams are kind of like gun shy because maybe that player pops off. Maybe that player scores a crazy goal against, England, and then all of a sudden their price doubles. Yeah. Maybe you have to pay a bit of a premium right now to get this guy in the squad. But then on the salary side, you're definitely paying this player a little bit more because it's before a World Cup, and they're kind of taking a hit on their national team chances.
Yeah, I just thought it was interesting that that news came out after the January window.
Yeah.
You never know where the MLS is going to land, and Ryan and I like to say like these random like rankings, right?
Yeah.
The random rankings come out, you're like, oh, I guess this is cool, right? Like I don't know.
But how much of that spending is the Colorado Rapids? That's the real question here. Like, what about? I guess the Earthquake spent. I guess we don't know how much they spent on Timo Werner yet.
True.
And no, my biggest thing is not the spending. It's the spending of the spending overall, at least. It's the spending of the teams that are at the lower side of the table, let's make a little floor so everybody has to kind of spend, because I love parity. I think that's what really makes
you really haven't like seen a whole bunch of it, maybe the past 3 or 4 years in the MLS. It's kind of been the same squads for the most part.
Yeah, definitely some teams are out, you're trimming the fat, really, right? You're starting to see teams with great organizations, great head coaches kind of really over years, like Pat Noonan, for example. If Columbus can do it, with the new coach, then maybe their organization is good. Seattle is one that's like,
Seattle's
iron, like iron giant out there in the West. Vancouver's becoming something out of nowhere. It's exciting to see where this league is going, and you're starting to see some teams become powerhouses. That's for sure.
Yeah. It's exciting. We're very excited about the 2026 season. Favian, we want to thank you for joining us tonight. Let everyone know where they can follow you and see all your work.
Yeah, look, Kickbase is having a huge announcement tomorrow. It was supposed to be today, so I was going to kind of say it, but I can't. Please go over and see what we're doing tomorrow, because if you're an FC Cincinnati fan or an MLS fan, you're going to be excited for this one. I'm personally very excited. I wouldn't have taken a job out in New York, literally during the same time as the Super Bowl in my home, if I didn't believe in it. So it's going to be a great time. We're going to make some crazy content out here, and we're going to have a lot of fun with this MLS season.
Awesome, man. If you're ever, wanting to come to an FC Cincinnati match, let Sam or I know.
Yeah.
We'd love to have you and to see TQL rocking, maybe for MLS Cup down the road too. That'd be pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yep. Thanks again for joining us tonight.
Yeah, no, it was a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And thanks everyone for listening tonight. We'll see you guys next time.